Hello and welcome back to another episode of Dancing Heart, the place that inspires you to follow your heart and dream big. I'm your host Torny, and in today's episode I have a really powerful and inspiring conversation with Lena Moxon, all the way from Australia. Lena shared her story on how she changed her entire life when she was 30. She left her marriage, moved to a different country, basically walked away from all that she knew, all of her businesses, and asked herself if that wasn't for her, what might be? So get yourself comfortable and get ready to hear Lena's powerful story on how she let go of what's good to experience what's great. Welcome to the Dancing Heart podcast, Lena Moxon.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. And what a beautiful name you have given your podcast, The Dancing Heart. I love that.
Thank you. I also love it. And okay, let's start off with what makes your heart dance today?
Oh, today. I love that you've prefaced that with today because it can be different on any given day, can't it? I think what makes my heart dance today is that recently I've really sat and reflected on the stage of my life that I am in. I have a small son. He's 4.5 years old. I live with my husband. We own our own businesses. And for the most part, fulfillment and satisfaction and contentment for me is such an easy thing to activate at the moment. If I can just do less every day, I actually feel happy. And when I reflect on my 20s, that was so busy and it was so fun and it was so wild and it was kind of chaotic and great. When I kind of contrast that to what it feels like now to be closer to my 40s and just in this real season of ease and just acceptance of what is, it really makes my heart dance with delight because I finally feel like being me and existing as I am doesn't feel like such an uphill battle anymore. And it doesn't feel like I have to wake up every morning and try and motivate myself and find enough energy or drink enough coffee to get going. I just get to flow with life now. And I've only really realized that kind of in the last few months, just waking up and just feeling at ease within myself and within my life and feeling truly grateful for that.
Oh, that's such an amazing way to be grateful and to make your heart dance. So the small things, it's just about the small things and you appreciate it. And especially when you can reflect back on your past life experiences. And I also know that you have gone through a huge transformation in your life. You made a huge decision in your 30s that you broke up with everything and you question yourself, if this wasn't for me, what might be?
Yeah. Yeah. I had within my 20s, I think like many people, I had positioned myself in my 20s to kind of create a certain expression of success that I had always believed was the only expression of success. So I was very fortunate to be raised in quite a privileged upbringing, right? In Australia, for the most part, we're very fortunate in terms of access to most resources. And I come from a middle class family. So access to things like education and healthcare and just general provision never was something that I had to think about. So I've been very lucky. And
Mm.
because of that, I was able to kind of look at my life and look at the world and ask of myself, well, what do I want in terms of success? And of course, growing up, I was born in the late 80s. And so growing up in the time period of having just mass media constantly feeding to us what success is and what beauty is and what we should want, I bought into all of that. And I was able very quickly in my 20s to just really prioritize working really hard. So I went to uni and I got a job and I met a man and I thought, I'll get married, I'll work hard, I'll save money, I'll invest, I'll travel, I'll do all of the things and I will be fabulous and it will be fabulous. And I did all of that. I made decisions based on what I thought was right for myself. And I just kept moving forward, fixated on this definition of success that I had for myself, which very much was just about accumulation of materialistic objects and resources and a certain status in society, I guess. And I didn't spend much time really reflecting on how it felt to be me, how it felt within my body, how I felt within my life, how my nervous system was doing. And I always had some very clear intuitive nudges that the path that I was on wasn't genuinely an authentic path for me. One of the stories that I tell is that when I married my first husband, who was a good man, and we had good intentions for each other in our lives, the night before I got married, I was sitting on my shower floor just crying, just sobbing, absolutely just a mess. So much resistance and hesitation to marry a man that I very much loved. And I couldn't really understand what was going on. I was so confused. If I had made this choice for myself and it felt like the right choice, and everyone was telling me it was the right decision, and it felt like a smart decision, and it felt like my future would be secured with a certain level of certainty and safety, why did it feel like I was about to do something terrible? Why was I crying? There was so much confusion. And of course, I didn't ever tell anybody about it. I just kind of wiped my tears, got up the next day, and did the thing that I had already committed to, that everybody expected me to do,
Oh.
and lived my life just repressing and denying any kind of connection with my inner being and my intuition, and just told myself that if I just kept moving forward and I just kept achieving the goals that I set for myself, everything would be okay. And long story short is I was about to turn 30 years old and things just were not okay. On paper, everything was wonderful.
Yeah.
But within myself, I was not okay, and my mental health was really starting to decline. I was finding it really hard to connect with other people. I was withdrawing. I was isolating myself. I had the privilege of having enough money to travel, and so I would say I was going on retreat. I made it sound all interesting and spiritual and, like I was investing in myself, but really I was just taking off to the other side of the world to hide and just kind of fall apart and be with the depression that I was masking so well from everybody.
Mm.
Because I think for the most part, I felt like the success that I had created for myself meant that I couldn't actually express how miserable I felt because I was ashamed of the privilege that I had to even just talk about that level of success. And I was kind of disgusted with myself that I had everything that I could ever want in terms of provision and I didn't want it. And I didn't know how to remedy that within myself. I didn't know how to face the truth that I didn't want any of what I had without feeling deeply ashamed of what a spoiled brat that made me.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a really difficult period of my life that I really struggled internally. I struggled in silence. And that honestly was a period of my life where I felt I couldn't speak to anybody in my life. And I started speaking to God. I started speaking to the universe. I started having these revelations within myself and these moments of clarity within myself that there was guidance given. And there was just, words that were kind of dropping within my mind and within my body that I had never thought before and I had never heard before. And it felt like guidance. And a lot of it was to just trust, to let it all go, to be honest, and to just say, like, this isn't the life that I want. And unfortunately for me at that time, I didn't truly understand that we can be our own highest authority, that we actually have sovereignty in a way that would allow us to kind of stand up and make new choices for ourselves. I didn't really understand that. And so I just created chaos within my life. And I burnt everything down, and it was quite damaging, quite destructive. I hurt myself and a lot of people in the way that I did it. But regardless of that, I walked away basically from life as I knew it. I walked away from the businesses that I had. I walked away from my relationship. I moved from the city that I was living and effectively just said, well, what now? If not that, what now? Which was not an exciting.
No, because it takes a lot of balls to do that and to really go inside and accept that, no, this is not for me. And just to leave all the people's expectations out of it and just trust your own inner guidance and your own intuition.
Yeah.
And what did like that was your turning point? Like you left everything and then what did you do?
Yeah.
Where did you
Beautiful
go?
question. Beautiful question. So my now husband, who was a very dear and close friend at the time, he lived on the other side of the country. And he had been a friend that I had been in contact with on and off for 10 years. We both lived on opposite sides of the country. He had moved and we had just remained in contact with each other as just really positive influence in each other's life. We were always kind of each other's cheerleader. And he had checked in with me saying like, oh, I've noticed that you're offline because I disappeared from everywhere. I disappeared like on social media. I was kind of uncontactable. And he said, how are you? How is everything? What's happening? And in the past, I would have just pointed towards something that was going well for me and just spoken about that. And I just thought, you know what, I'm just not going to pretend anymore. And I told him everything that was happening. I told him, you know, the disgrace that I had caused in my life. I said, I don't even know where I'm going to go or what I'm going to do. And he had said to me, well, you can come and stay with me for a little while you figure it out if you want to. And I didn't really have many other choices at that point. And I just thought, you know what? I'm going to accept help. And that
Mm.
was something new for me too. Usually I would have been like, oh no, it will be fine. I'll sort it out. I'll work this out for myself as myself. That fierce independence would have stood in the way of me just accepting support and accepting help. And so I moved. I moved across the country. He let me move in with him for a little bit. And I just gathered the skill set that I had. And remember, I speak of my privilege, and I'm so aware of the privilege that I had to have been educated and to have had life experience that did have me resourced with certain skills that I could leverage to kind of just start again. And I had graduated. I was a school teacher, is one of the things that I had done in my life. And I started a business doing like private tutoring for children. I understood, some of the struggles that parents were having with children that were falling behind within the school system. And I was doing one on one tutoring for students. And that's how I started. And I just slowly kind of built my financial provision up for myself again. And that's what I did. But more than that, I did cut myself off from everybody and everything that I had known for a really long time. And I gave no explanation really of what I was doing, where I was going. I didn't show
Wow.
up on social media. I just really turned inward and let myself just literally rebuild everything consciously from the
You,
ground up. I let every choice that I make be a very conscious choice.
wow. So you really trusted and you asked for help and you let this guy help you. And that's also some brave move because we want to figure out everything ourselves and don't ask for help. That's shameful. And when you went through this transition in your life, did you have any type of identity crisis, like the past version vs, oh, who am I becoming now? Who is this new version? I don't have, we are so defined by the who we are, who we live with, what we do, and our jobs. How was
It
that?
was, yes, it was very interesting for me because I was living in a new town and nobody knew me. When people would ask me questions, it was very interesting for me to hear the parts of myself that I wanted to share or the parts of me that I would just share straight away without thinking. And you have an opportunity, I think, when you decide that a certain way of being or a life you have been living or an identity that you had unconsciously taken for yourself no longer serves you, to be really careful about the way you speak of yourself and who you are. And so I did have some pretty kind of rude realizations within me that I still wanted to prove certain things. There were still certain things that I wanted people to know about my former success. And I'd catch myself talking about the very things that I ended up resenting. And it was very interesting for me to kind of sit and reflect and be like, why do you want people to know that you operated multiple businesses? Why are you still talking? You don't do that anymore. Why are you talking about that? And it really made me realize how twisted I still was into society's definition of what success was. And so it was in conversations that I was having with people that it really made me stop and question just how, I guess, ingrained I still was into the very kind of like systemization that I was trying desperately to free myself from. And so I had to hold myself accountable to not falling on old identities to try and fit in or to try and be easily understood, and to be okay when people ask me who I was and what I was doing, to be in that season of transformation where we actually don't have clear answers for that, and to feel confident enough to say like I'm in a phase of figuring all of this out. And that was very hard in my early 30s because I looked around and everybody else was kind of, living a very different experience where everyone was settling down. And there was a part of me that would experience deep grief and despair and anger because I had sorted it all out for myself in my 20s. And the story I was telling myself was I shouldn't be going through this now. I had done everything right. Life should be easy for me now, you know. But I had decided I didn't want an easy life. I wanted an authentic life. So it was deeply challenging, and it still remains challenging sometimes. Even as I tell my story now, I catch the way that I speak about certain things or the way it feels in my body when I leave out certain things. And I guess we're always in an evolving relationship with our past and the way that we're allowing it frame our present and create our future.
That is so true. That is beautiful. I also went through the same kind of, I don't like in yeah, identity shift as you quit your job and you follow your heart and your dreams, whatever you are, what you did. And then you have to question, who am I now? What do I like to do? And it's we are constantly becoming. So of course we are evolving human beings every day. And that's a beautiful journey of it as well. Like, and accepting that and
Yeah.
doing something
Yeah.
about it. And then you went to this new place and went into your new phase of your second edition of your life or your new chapter. What did you what did you do to, come back to this to align your new self, like become the new version of yourself? Did you have any practices, something that was helping you to identify your new self or your
Yeah.
the becoming
Beautiful,
version?
beautiful question. Yeah, beautiful question. I think I allowed myself to be in process for a while, and I allowed myself to just to read. I listened to a lot of podcasts. I signed up for a lot of different workshops. I really put myself in the seat of learner, and I really wanted to learn from others before me that had gone through similar or completely different transitions, but people that had decided to actively operate from a place of sovereignty and conscious living rather than just kind of the zombie like existence that we can find ourselves in. So I spent a lot of time, I think, really investing in a new education for myself.
Getting to know
um
yourself.
yeah, but also like reading the books again and listening to things again with a new sense of, I don't know, I guess I was just listening for different things. It wasn't about like, how can I learn this so that I can seem intelligent and successful? It was like, how can I connect with what has been shared and feel it in my body so that I can have resonance with it, so that my consciousness can co-create with what has been shared and I can develop an understanding that's going to help me experience myself and the world in a new way. And so I guess I allowed myself just to be in this space of not knowing and to really redevelop my relationship with the not knowing. So much so that now I'm completely devoted to the not knowing. I'm in love with the mystery. I live in the mystery of life. And that feels so empowering rather than always feeling like I'm supposed to figure every little detail out and I'm supposed to always know and I'm supposed to stay ahead of everything. Yeah, I just really went into process of blocking out a lot of the bullshit that had been harmful. So anything that I noticed that I was comparing myself to or, made me feel any kind of way that didn't feel good within my body, I just made sure I didn't engage with it. So that was a big part of going off social media for a little while.
Mm.
I stopped like reading the news and I stopped going to certain, places within the world that had certain energies that I didn't align with anymore, right? So like I stopped night clubbing, I stopped doing all that stuff for a little while just to kind of really cleanse and purify my own experience of self and to just slow everything down and quieten everything down. And then I really activated ritual in a sense for myself to create a sense of certainty and predictability during a time that was so uncertain for me. So the rising in the day every morning, using movement as a way to kind of just offer my nervous system and my body some kind of stimulation and consistency felt really, really good. So that was a non-negotiable for me. I always started the day with exercise. I always listened to something positive and uplifting. whether it was like, a segment of an Abraham Hicks talk, that was something that I felt really supportive for a while, or whoever it was that I was listening to, an audio book or whatever it was, I allowed that to be the first thing that I interacted with, something that was positive, something that was aligned to spirituality at the time, and something that reminded me of the power that I had to co-create my experience in the day. Uh, that was probably, I think, the most important thing that I did for myself, really owning the first hour, hour and a half of my day every day, because I would still wake up um, and feel a sense of like just dread and almost shock at the change that I had chosen for myself. I'd wake up and just be like, oh my God, what have I done? What am I going to do? How's it going to unfold? And so having that kind of just morning practice initially to move into, that wasn't anything too far out there, just a little bit of movement, consciously choosing what I was listening to, what was, going to help me create my thoughts and the way that I felt within my body for the day, was very important, really important.
So beautiful. I like,
Mm.
for me, the morning practice is the non-negotiable. It's so important to, even though when you are living in the unknown, like I am at the moment, I don't know what's going to happen in 2 months or whatever, but the morning practice is just very important, just to set
Yeah.
yourself up for a positive day, and yeah,
Yeah.
moving your body. I love what you said about you love to be living in the mysterious of the unknown.
Yes.
How do you embrace that so well?
Oh, it's a constant practice, and I don't always embrace it well. I don't always embrace it well, but I come back to that as absolute truth for me. Living in that paradox is truth as my reality, is something that is a daily practice. So I think for me, when I feel the most ease and I feel aligned to just experiencing myself and the world in a way that isn't forceful and that isn't trying to kind of live my life through preference, and it's just interacting with what is, I recognize that we are living in mystery, that there are so many questions that we have that we won't have answers to, and we're just going to have to live in the uncertainty and the unknown of an existence that asks us just to trust and just to align to our heart again and again, and to make decisions from that place. So I don't always do that well. Sometimes I get very fearful, very anxious, very angry, and I just kind of allow myself to know that I'm a human experiencing this life of mystery, and that I am entitled to feel all things. And I just ask myself to develop process and ways of being that allow me to move through all of those emotions with respect and reverence for each of them, because I believe they're gifted to us for use. We shouldn't be trying to deny ourselves of any of the experiences or emotions that we feel. But coming back to living in the mystery, really, I think I've been able to do that more often, through just developing my relationship with universe, with source energy, with God, with whatever you kind of want to call it and relate to it, in really developing my own practice of prayer, really tuning in and doing a lot of the somatic activated healing that I do, where I really get to know my own internal landscape and work with my body, I guess, to be guided through those internal cues for what's I was going to say right and wrong. It's definitely not about what's right and wrong, but what I'm being guided to
Mhm.
feel is truth for me in any given moment.
So
Mm,
beautiful. Wow.
mm,
It takes
mm.
practice. It's constant practice to be and to trust and to believe that you are safe, you are being guided into the right direction. And talking about, being guided, where where did it guide you from being this, after your transition from your old version into your new version, and where did the life take you then?
Yes. Well, currently it's taken me a lot of places. I became I became a mum quite soon after that, and I feel after making the decision to kind of leave one life and come into a new way of being, I became a mum, and I think that really fast tracked my devotion to really understanding what my values were, who I wanted to be in the world, how I wanted to contribute to the world. I think once you have a child, or for me anyway, once I had a child, I really felt a greater sense of responsibility to contribute to the world in a way that mattered, and to really think about the world that I was creating for my child to be in. And so I took a lot of, I guess, responsibility for the work that I was doing and how I was being of service to others. And in doing that, and in following a lot of the other paths that I had already kind of pre-paved. So I had been a teacher. I had also owned and operated gyms for 15 years, which had me coaching people for a really long time. And I was the coach in the gym who, yes, wanted to support you with your physical goals, but really I wanted to talk about what was going on at home for you, what other goals and aspirations you had, the way that you were activating a sense of greatness within yourself to take out into the world. So I had already kind of transitioned from like gym coach into life coach in a way that I kind of didn't really understand at the time, but that's always what I was doing. And so I knew I had the capacity for that. And my businesses had experienced great success through that kind of coaching modality that I had kind of just created for myself on the fly. And so I went during COVID lockdown when the gyms are all shut down and I had more time. I retrained with the Dharma Coaching Institute as a spiritual life coach, more so because I really recognized and realized so many of my clients came to me during that time for support, just with their own kind of sense of self and well-being, and transitioning between like, okay, if life has, pivoted on me and changed, how do I deal with this? What do I do? And so I was having all of these really powerful conversations, and it really lit me up. I was really activated by it. I was really kind of, just lit up. I had endless energy for it. And I thought, right, I want to be supported in being the best coach that I can be at this point in time. And so that's what led me to Dharma Coaching Institute. And I was in the first cohort for that. And then since then, I've also recently retrained with Sadi Simone. He does somatic activated healing, which is it's a revolutionary modality of breathwork, mantra, meditation, and movement that supports us in just releasing all of the stored trauma and emotions and energies within the body in a movement-based practice. So that is my work now. So it's a combination of spiritual life coaching and somatic activated healing. And I can't believe it gets to be my life's work because I just love it so much. And it definitely has aligned with my desire to redefine what work feels like and looks like and sounds like. And yeah, so I'm doing a lot of that online, a lot in person. I'm feeling like I want to move a lot of it to in person next year. I think many people can relate to we've spent the last few years online, and I'm starting to feel myself just craving human connection more and being in community more. So that's my intention for next year. I don't know how that's going to play out, but yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, since you've been used to working with children, you've been a teacher, so you have had a physical contact with the gym and everything. And how beautiful that you transition from your, you were a gym coach and suddenly people were just coming to you and then you'd be, wow, what is this? So you took action and became a spiritual life coach and also a somatic healer. Is that the word for
Yes.
it?
Yes.
Can you explain more what is that? What
I
it
would
is?
love to. I would love to. I could talk for 5 years about somatic activated healing. So somatic activated healing is a specific method created by Sadi Simone. And basically through this practice, you're guided through a series of different dynamic breath work. You're given specific somatic movements that work to just remove, we say like you're dropping the story and being with the feeling within the body. So what we do as we're doing somatic activated healing is releasing all of the stored energies and emotions that may have been repressed or denied in the body through all of life's experience. So traditional therapeutic methods are kind of like a top-down approach where we use thought and we use intellect and we use talk to kind of move through whatever it is that we need to be supported with. Somatic activated healing is more like a bottom-up approach where we use the body to kind of just work through the processing of whatever it is that we might be feeling within us, that we need to release in order to create a spaciousness within us to meet the moment. So it's a modality that is very supportive because we actually don't have to talk about anything. We don't have to pinpoint any significant moment in time or experience. We just get to learn, how can I work with the body and its innate healing capacity to really release what has been stored or held onto for far too long, so that I can just bring myself back into the present moment, just feeling a sense of clarity and presence and spaciousness.
Wow.
Um, so
Sounds amazing.
it's a it is. It's wonderful. It's a practice you can do like quick 20-minute ones, or you can go for a full 60 minutes. And what I really love about it is that it meets the person exactly where they are, and it just really teaches you how to get out of your head and back into your body, which is something that a lot of people struggle with, right? We know so many people are struggling with just overthinking and overwhelm and anxiety, and just really being ruled by the way that their thoughts are just like populating themselves. And so to teach people how to get out of the head and get back into the body, as a way to kind of create new adaptive response to the way that we're kind of working with life. Life is always going to be painful and stressful and tricky for us. That's just life, right? So how can we work within the body to develop like a toolkit of ourselves within ourselves, to just expel energy and to not hold on to emotions longer than we need to, and even to learn to relate to certain emotions with a little more ease and curiosity and compassion and understanding, rather than feel like there's certain things that I can't feel and I shut down if I feel them. And it's, yeah, completely revolutionary in that it allows you to just be in whatever you are experiencing in an empowered state.
So beautiful. I'm just curious to hear about, we have a range of emotions. What
Yes.
emotions do you think is, or have you experienced that is the emotion that people mostly are repressing, that they feel like, oh, it's a bad emotion, I cannot feel it?
Mm, beautiful question. I don't know that there would necessarily be one emotion that people struggle to kind of express and be in the experience of. I think it really depends on your upbringing and what was modeled at home, what was allowed at home, what it was safe to feel at home, and what it wasn't safe to feel. I think what I notice about a lot of people is when they come to me and they say they want to work on certain emotions, usually there's one or two emotion that they are conscious and aware that they feel all the time. So if one of the questions that I ask is like, what are the top three emotions that you feel regularly? What triggers them? How are you expressing them? How are you communicating them? But what we find is below those emotions are the emotions that we haven't really allowed ourselves to kind of, or we haven't ever experienced in a way that we've understood that they are part of the experience we're having for self. So, one of the things that I realized through the training that I did, because of course we did so much of the somatic work, was that when it came to an experience of self, I thought I was angry about certain things. And I worked to kind of process the anger and process the anger. And what I came to understand was it hadn't been truly anger that I was feeling in relation to the thing that I was working through. Anger had just been the emotion that had felt the most easy to express, and that I had some sort of skill in communicating. It felt powerful to be angry because I could yell and I could use my body in a way that felt powerful. But what was actually underneath that was shame. And what was underneath that was grief. And that's what my body was actually longing to be supported in releasing. And that was a very different experience. And that took a lot of courage to be like, oh my God, I've never felt the shame that has been there within my body. And I say courage because there was a lot there. I had repressed that and denied that and hidden that for so many years. And actually, it had impacted so much of what I had experienced within my life. So there's always more to discover within yourself. And it's kind of like, we use this analogy all the time in many different contexts, but it's like, peeling the layers of an onion. You never quite know what it is that you're going to find. But why I like this method is that it welcomes all expressions of the way that you feel, and you're welcome to come to it gently, and you're welcome to kind of just be with as much of it as you're willing to be with, and you are in full control of your experience within the body. And ultimately, it's designed in such a way that we never march you into the darkness. We don't say, okay, let's go sit in shadow today. It is never like that. It's always, offered in such a way that we're very mindful that it's supposed to uplift and affirm your life experience each time, rather than reveal to you how messed up you are. That's not the intention at all.
Mm-hmm. But that, yeah, I'm just like, okay, so you have this emotion, and underneath that, you have, it's not that actual emotion that you're feeling, it's the layers under it. And that is
Well,
very interesting.
literature shows us as well that we're never just experiencing one emotion. We usually, excuse me, experience our emotions in clusters. So we're never just usually feeling one thing. There's one kind of predominant emotion, usually because we're most practiced in that, or that's been the safest expression of that, or we know how to communicate that. But there's usually a few emotions around above and below that, that we're also experiencing, or that are also tied into whatever it is that we're experiencing.
That's very, very interesting. I would love to learn more about that. And yeah.
I'll give you one example. I know, like I use my son as an example of this. Sometimes my son's 4.5. It's a challenging age, but it's also a very rewarding and beautiful age. And sometimes I'll be having these beautiful moments with him. That's just, he's so cute and he's doing something that's just so typical to a 4.5-year-old. And I'm just having so much fun. And he's really pulled me into the world of just play and adventure of 4 years old. And I'm so happy and it's so great. And in that moment, I also experience sadness and grief in the knowing that it's not going to last forever,
Yes,
that
that's
he's
true.
growing day by day, right? So
I have a
right next
5-year
to,
old, so I know
yeah,
everything about it. Can you just forever just be my baby,
right. Our joy and our sorrow exist simultaneously, and they both amplify each other. They both highlight each other. And so we're never just feeling one thing. If we really stop and feel into the experience that we're having, there's always more there. And we don't have to overanalyze ourselves or our experience. And I've given a very easy and light example. But when more significant and challenging things have happened within our life, that's kind of the way that it works. There's a lot there that our body is experiencing. And if we aren't in the practice of being with our experience and our emotions, our body just holds it, and we consciously are not giving ourselves the opportunity to process it.
That's true. Wow, what an inspiring story, Lena. You went from a life that you thought was based on success of the society, and you built yourself up again on the other side of the country. And look at you now doing you have your own practice with the coaching and helping other people to come back to their body and to discover their purpose, right?
Yeah. Yeah. To just, understand what it means to be authentically expressed within themselves, whatever that experience is.
Where can we find you? Where
Yeah,
can
I have
we
so many resources. Thank you. The best place to find me probably is on Instagram. I'm on Instagram at Lena, Lena underscore Moxon, Moxon, or on my website. If you're interested in trying somatic activated healing, there's lots of free sessions that I have uploaded ready for you to kind of go in there and try. And it's just lenamoxon.com is my website. And those are probably the two best ways for us to kind of connect and be in conversation beyond this today.
Thank you. And I also want to ask you the final question. What is the advice that you wish you had when you transitioned from your divorce and into the unknown?
Oh my goodness. What a beautiful question. What is the advice what do I wish that I had known? I think that just because something doesn't last forever doesn't mean that it hasn't been successful. I think I wish somebody had have said to me, it's you can still feel good about everything that you experienced. You can still be really proud of the experience that you had. You can let it feel complete, and you can actually feel good about it, even though it hasn't lasted the test of time. And I think I would have been able to just, you know, move forward without feeling like that sense of just like shame and escape and kind of wanting to hide that I felt because I hadn't, sustained my relationship or my life for the long haul. I wish somebody had have told me like it's okay in life It's okay if things don't work out and we actually get to start again as many times as we need to. And it doesn't necessarily mean that something was bad or wrong or not meant for you. It just means that like there's more for you to experience, and it's okay for you to live your life exploring the more that's calling you.
Wow, I love that. Thank you for sharing your advice and for taking the time for sharing your story. I'm very inspired. Thank you, Lena.
Thank you so much for your time and your energy today.
Thank you so much to Lena Moxon for sharing her story so open and vulnerable here today on the Dancing Heart podcast. And if you like this episode and my podcast, don't forget to share it with your friends, and you can also tag me on my Instagram. It's Torny Wiggle. Enjoy the rest of your day, your evening, your morning, and I will see you next week. Sending you lots of love from Playa del Carmen. Bye!